2005. That's when I started watching Doctor Who. You know, I liked it. This quirky little sci-fi show, the TARDIS, and an alien named the Doctor. But it wasn't until 2010, 5 years later, I'd been watching, I liked the show, but I fell in love and I became a huge fan when Matt Smith became the Doctor and Stephen Moffat began showrunning, producing, and writing so many great episodes. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. I'm Eric, and let's go. The year is 2010, and Matt Smith is cast as the Doctor. David Tennant regenerated and became Matt Smith. And fantastic episode where Matt Smith first shows up, and right away we can see Matt Smith's timing. This began Series 5. I have the Blu-ray set right here. Really cool cover, by the way. Check that out. So this began Series 5. And in Series 5 began with the 11th Hour. All right, so this is where we first see Matt Smith as the new Doctor. The TARDIS is crash landing. It's out of control. It's flying over London, and it finally does. And when it crash lands, it lands and busts up a shed out behind a house. And in that house is a young girl. Her name, Amy Pond. This is where the Doctor meets her. She's just a little girl at this time. I think 9, 10, 11 years old. And by the way, she has a TARDIS blue front door. Okay, talk about destiny. And she runs out and she meets the Doctor. Matt Smith and his comedic chops shine through big time. And it's a joy to watch. And this is what's so great about these Matt Smith years. The timing was perfect. My kids were 9 and 10, and my daughter was 5 at the time, and we could watch these together. This was family entertainment. It was great for the kids, but also registered on all other level just for me, just for an adult. And that really is perfect family entertainment, where they can enjoy the slapstick comedic stuff, fish fingers and custard, Matt Smith spitting food out, chucking it out the door because it's a new mouth, new rules. And it's just so great, but it turns on a dime, okay? All that stuff the kids like, when he goes upstairs and he discovers the crack in the wall. This is all in the first episode of Series 5 called The 11th Hour. Of course, beautifully titled, right? The 11th Doctor. It's called The 11th Hour. And this crack in the wall are 2 points of space and time that should not be touching, okay? It's literally a crack in the skin of the universe. And guess where it is? On the bedroom wall of Amy Pond. All right? This crack becomes instrumental all the way through the very last episode with Matt Smith, years later. And it becomes an integral part of the story, and many different subplots and storylines revolve around it, including some of the best episodes ever. But in this episode, we meet the Doctor, but then, fast forward, he goes and jumps in his TARDIS. It's having issues. I'll be right back. Well, guess what? She goes out and waits for him. He never comes back until like 12 years later. And she's all grown up by then. So now we actually have, because of time travel, the Doctor comes back 12 years later. He thinks it's minutes later. He doesn't know. The TARDIS is having issues. The TARDIS is also regenerating, okay, just like he is. And she becomes his new companion. We also meet Rory Williams. This is Amy Pond's boyfriend. This all happens in the first episode, The 11th Hour. This is on my favorite list. Of course, it's the first time we meet Matt Smith. In episode 2, The Beast Below, a spaceship, which is basically an ark for all of London or England, and you can actually see like the London and English cityscape on top of this thing. But in The Beast Below, we find out that basically like a space whale is transporting all of England through space, but they're using cruel methods, and this is a key part of Doctor Who. Of the Doctor's personality is that he doesn't want to see others suffer. And when he sees an injustice, and when he sees brutality, again, or tyranny happening upon a creature or any persons or peoples, he will fight for them. The third episode takes place in the past during World War II. This is the first time we meet Winston Churchill. Fantastic actor plays him, and this is called Victory of the Daleks, where they end up fighting Daleks in World War II. Time of the Angels and Flesh and Stone. Okay, remember Blink in Series 3? That's the first time we saw the Weeping Angels. Well, the Weeping Angels come full front as the villains and as the big bad of these two-part episode. Episode 4, Episode 5 of Series 5, okay, this 5th season, Time of the Angels and Flesh and Stone. And in this, River Song is in it, but River Song is in prison and under the custody of a guy with like a religious army or whatever. But the point is, though, they go on this adventure. They fight against the Weeping Angels. There is some brilliant stuff in here. Stuff that actually pays off many episodes later, and you don't even know it. Again, time travel. It's so beautifully done, so beautifully written by Stephen Moffat. Time of the Angels, Flesh and Stone, this is also on my must-watch list. Episode 6, Vampires in Venice. They love to reference this episode a lot. It is kind of a cool title. Episode 7, Amy's Choice. Now, episodes 8 and 9. These are not up there in the upper echelon, but I included on this list, though. The Hungry Earth and Cold Blood. This is the first time we meet the lizard people deep under the crust of the earth. They used to live here on Earth until they went away and went into hibernation. Since then, the humans took over. This is all part of the Doctor Who world. But I leave these episodes in for a reason. The crack is back, okay? The crack in the skin of the universe. That is back, and we lose Rory Williams in this episode, in the Cold Blood, in part 2 of this two-parter. That's why I left this in here, because that's important. Because fast forward to episode 10, brilliant episode. I can't watch this episode without crying. Called Vincent and the Doctor. They visit Vincent van Gogh. And they see all of his paintings. And he's just a washed up, doesn't believe in himself. And we know he's destined to kill himself. And they know this. But when they go to a display of Vincent van Gogh's artwork in modern times, they notice a monster in the window of a painting that the Vincent did. So, what do? They hop on the TARDIS, they travel back, and they befriend him, and they go on this adventure, and they finally beat this monster. And by the way, the monster's invisible, and only Vincent can see him. So brilliantly done and brilliantly written by Stephen Moffat. Because again, Vincent van Gogh, he's depressed and he's anxious and he's so tormented, his soul is, and yet he's such a brilliant painter and he doesn't see his potential. But then, spoilers, as River Song likes to say, spoilers, they bring him to the present day. They bring Vincent van Gogh in the TARDIS, present day. And he sees how popular his work will be. And he hears how influential and important he is to art, into the history of art, and the importance of it, and his command of color, and space, and his painting ability, and his artistic prowess. He learns that he actually has value. They do find out later, of course, the timeline remains intact. He does take his own life. But those moments, though, where he just feels, he just hears how important he is. It's just so beautifully written. It'll bring you to tears, at least it does me. Vincent and the Doctor, episode 10. There's something really special when a TV show is able to do comedy and drama and action, both funny and serious, in the same story, in the same episode. When you can pull that off, and having it be real in all cases and instances, then there's something special there. Another show that does this fairly well is 12 Monkeys. 12 Monkeys has the ability to do action and family drama and comedy, all wrapped up in with one beautiful bow in one episode. Well, Doctor Who is able to do this as well. In one of the funny episodes, though, that is mostly comedic and it's beautifully done, James Corden, is actually the co-star of this episode. Yes, that James Corden from Into the Woods, the movie. He also, of course, had an American TV show here for a while. The Doctor is stuck, and the TARDIS is away, and Amy's stuck on that, and he has to get lodging. That's why it's called The Lodger. And he rents a room, and he brings James Corden a bag full of cash. And it's just really funny, and James Corden's beginning to wonder, like, is this guy a dealer? Well, it ends up, though, that the Doctor has to share who he is. And James Corden finds out who he is. He's the Doctor. Well, up above him, up above where the Doctor's rented a room, okay, is a second floor. Well, that second floor is not really there. It's a perception filter. It's actually a crashed spaceship up there, but with a perception filter where you think there's actually a second floor. And it's looking for a new pilot, right? There's an automated like AI system, and it keeps luring people in. And when they're not compatible, they actually get killed. Of course, the Doctor's on the case. It's a very, very funny episode, The Lodger. This is episode 11. And just another thing where Stephen Moffat can write comedy so beautifully, but naturally done. Okay, nothing is forced, no forced jokes. It's just comedic moments, but so beautifully acted by Matt Smith. Matt Smith and his physical comedy and his ability to do comedy is just amazing. He's literally one of the best actors of his generation, Matt Smith, and I'm going to say that here and now. I truly believe it. Following this, though, another two-parter to finish off the season, episode 12 and episode 13. The Pandorica Opens, episode 12, and episode 13, The Big Bang. This is where the crack in the universe comes in, but also they find out that there's been a massive explosion. And Vincent is brought back into the story fold at this point, where Vincent actually paints a painting of the TARDIS exploding. And on the TARDIS, in the little window, right, where he's actually painted time and space coordinates. This brings River Song into the story. So we have River Song, we have Amy, and we don't have Rory yet, but then Rory joins as well, because remember, Rory got erased back at Cold Blood by the crack. He was absorbed, and literally when the crack in space and time, when it grabs you, you are deleted from all space and time. You were never born. So if you were never born, that causality plays out. Okay, now the Doctor does remember, but Amy never knew a Rory until she did again. But these two episodes are two of my very favorite. They go on location to Stonehenge, and there's a big showdown there. But what is the Pandorica? Well, what does it sound like? The Pandora's box. Well, the enemies of the Doctor believe that they are saving themselves and the universe by locking the Doctor in the Pandorica, this perfect prison. And there's the technology in here is just unfathomably advanced. Okay, there's time locks, and there's different things. There's regeneration fields, and it's the perfect prison to put who they consider the most dangerous person in the universe. They consider the Doctor to be the most dangerous. The entire laundry list of Doctor Who villains throughout all of the history of the show are brought back for this episode, because they've all worked together and formed an alliance to trick the Doctor into going to Stonehenge by capturing Amy Pond's memories and the things that she's known throughout her life. She used to read a book about the Romans. Well, the Romans are in here, the Roman army. And then she had a book about the Pandorica, or the Pandora's box. So they created the Pandorica, okay? This perfect prison, this big cube. And let's see, yeah. You can actually kind of see a picture of it here. All right, that's what the front of the Pandorica looks like. All right, and then these all unlock and it opens up. And inside's like a single throne or seat, if you will, where they can lock away the Doctor. So that's what the front of the Pandorica looks like. It plays out exactly as his enemies want it to. He's put in there, but being the Doctor, he has a way out. And it's actually so easy in that he travels from the future in the Big Bang, in the second episode of this two-parter. After the Pandorica opens, they put him in it. And then all of a sudden, he pops back in, gives a sonic screwdriver to Rory, and Rory just points at the Pandorica, and it just opens up, all right? So the doctor is able to open it up that easily. And he's like, where'd you get that? Right? He's like, no, it's your screw. He's like, no, this is my screw. So they each have a screwdriver at this point. Rory has holding one, and the doctor. And when they touch it, there's a little zap. Because, again, this is one object, okay, from two different points in this time stream. And, basically, if you were to truly merge them, it would probably cause a paradox. At least if those were the 12 Monkeys rules and a lot of other time travel rules. But as this plays out, it's called the Big Bang. Because all of reality is dying. Okay, when they locked away the doctor, slowly in the eye of the storm, all of time and space is collapsing, if you will. Okay? And the doctor must figure out, how do we bring it back? And the Pandorica having like this infinite supply of a regeneration field. Well, what if you took the TARDIS? Okay, if the TARDIS exploded, which has access to all of space and time, and flew it into the heart of the Pandorica, or vice versa. Point is, when you merge the two, the Pandorica and the TARDIS, right? That regeneration field would then reboot the universe, if you will. Okay, using just the matter within as a template through which it can actually recreate, if you will, everything like a Big Bang. And that's what happens. It's so insanely and far-fetched, but you suspend all disbelief because this is done so well, and that's what fun sci-fi does, okay? When you're along for the ride, and they've given you enough groundwork and a foundation from which you can build this fantastical, ridiculous story, okay? And on top of that ridiculous story, there's a lot of great drama, really comedic, really fun moments, and really serious moments that are actually, they're like tearjerkers as well. Beautiful 2 episodes, 2 of my favorite episodes ever. Before we talk about the Christmas special, I wanted to focus in a little bit more on the Pandorica Opens and the Big Bang. There's something really special that happens in the Big Bang episode. The Doctor essentially gives his life to save all of reality, all of time and space, by flying the Pandorica into the exploding TARDIS. He's giving his life. He expects this to be the end. And with usual bravado, he types a message to Amy and River and Rory and says, Geronimo. That was one of his main catchphrases. Matt Smith's 11th Doctor, Geronimo! He said it quite a bit. And normally it's like this sounding cry that says, let's dive right into adventure, right? That's what Geronimo meant in this world. Well, in the Big Bang, he doesn't die right away. In fact, he wakes up. He sits up right there on the deck of the TARDIS. And he looks down at his legs. He says, oh, I've got legs. That's great. Oh, bow tie. And then he's like, oh, no fez. Well, I can get a fez. So right away, a little bit of comedy there. When he finds out he's alive, he's really happy about it. But then he soon finds out that he is rewinding through his recent adventures, rewinding through recent days. Specifically time with Amy. There's one where they talk about going to Space Florida, where there's automatic sand that cleans up the lollipops automatically. And he overhears this, but then he realizes that these apparitions or ghosts or images from recent memories or times, Amy can actually kind of hear him. He's echoing through time and space as he's traveling back and witnessing these times. But there's one part in particular. When they're in the oxygen factory, the crashed ship, okay, this is all the way back to Flesh and Stone, okay? Time of the Angels and Flesh and Stone, all the way back to episodes 4 and 5. And in this crash ship, there's a forest inside, right? It's an oxygen factory. Treeborgs. These actually part tree, part cyborg. They're wired up and they collect starlight and as energy, and then they produce oxygen for the ship. What a great idea, by the way, right? You need oxygen, you just bring plants along with you. So they're in this forest. In that, of course, the weeping angels are bearing down on Amy, and she's about to be stuck there. She can't open her eyes for fear that she'll turn into a weeping angel. But there's this one scene in that episode, episode 5. They're stuck in the forest. Matt Smith, the doctor, he doesn't have his jacket on, his normal tweed jacket. And by the way, I heard that that's actually Matt Smith's actual jacket that he owns. That's just a little tidbit that I heard somewhere. All right, so he tells Amy, all right, just to stay with these soldiers. I'll be right back. I got to go do this. And he leaves her there in the forest. He doesn't have it on. But then there's a second later in that episode where he grabs her hands again and her eyes are closed. And he talks to her. And you can see the cuff of his jacket. Well, this is what's so beautiful. In the Big Bang episode, as he's rewinding, we see that he actually, after the doctor in that episode, okay, no jacket on, goes off to save the day. The doctor, who's now rewinding through time, comes up and grabs her hands. So that was baked right in to the earlier part of the season, something that would pay off later in the season. I love that. I love a big picture storytelling, especially with time travel, where you can plant an Easter egg. You don't know what you're seeing in the moment, typically, or you're at least a little confused if you're looking for continuity, like, he has a jacket on, he didn't before. But in this, though, it plays so beautifully that he's traveling back through time, and he tells Amy that she needs to hold on and trust him more than ever. That's really special, but beyond that, though, in the final moments, okay, before the crack is closing, right? This crack, two parts of space and time that shouldn't be touching. Before the crack closes completely and he has to kind of basically go into the light, he sits by the bedside of young Amy Pond as she sleeps. This is the night that she waited for him, basically rewinding the clock all the way back to the 11th hour. All right, episode 1 of season 5, Matt Smith's first episode. Well, the payoff is in the season finale, we revisit that night and add all new color to it, a brand new context. And he sits there next to her bed. This is where I say Matt Smith is one of the greatest actors of this generation. Secondly, the greatest doctor that we've ever had in Doctor Who. Because Matt Smith, the actor, is only in his mid to late 20s at this point. 26, 27 years old. However, as he's conveying this story to her and as he's talking to her as she sleeps, he's kind of giving a monologue. You can feel the weight of 900 plus years. He's an old man, he's an ancient man trapped in a young man's body. And that is the crux of what the 11th Doctor is. But you can see every nuance of all these years where he's given everything all the way to the end, where he's giving his life and his existence in order to save all of greater existence and reality. But you can feel that in his words. And he talks about the TARDIS. And he talks about her and how, he came to her but this box, right? This something new and old at the same time. That's the TARDIS. It's very old, but it's constantly renewing itself. It's new and old at the same time. It's also the bluest blue you can imagine. And it's something borrowed as well. This is so great. Because yes, he does go into the crack. Okay? After this beautiful monologue. And he's gone. Next thing we know, Amy wakes up and she has parents for the first time. She hasn't had them her whole life because the crack has been absorbing that from her. And she wakes up and she's like, "Oh, you're my mom," and "Oh, you're my little dad." And Amy and Rory do get married at the end of the Big Bang. We don't see the ceremony, but we see the dinner afterward. And she feels like something's missing. And all of a sudden she gets a wedding present. And the wedding present is a notebook that looks like the TARDIS. All right, this is from River Song. It's kind of a way to jog her memory. And in this new reality, a rebooted existence, okay, Big Bang 2, in this new reality, she had an imaginary friend, the Raggedy Doctor, but he was never really, really real, as he was in the previous, because he was erased from time. When he went into the crack, he was erased. He, quote, had never been born, but he told her that night, Okay? The weight of 900 years, you could feel how ancient he was. And yet a young man was talking. He told her that we're never really gone as long as someone remembers us. And that really is key. Our memories serve as anchor points, as ways for us to connect and remember that time actually passes. Without our memories, every day would be new, right? You'd have short-term memory and no long-term memory. And imagine that, like, we'd never feel the weight of all these years and have all these learned experiences, and the good and the bad, and the things that we've done wrong that we've tried to make amends for and do better. All those life experiences that we go through are all baked into our memories and inform and create who we are in this present moment. Well, she realizes this. And here, there at the wedding dinner, she tells her dad to be quiet. He's about to do some jokes, right? And then she's like, I remember you, Raggedy Man. And then she's like, oh, you're so clever. She's like, and then she's remembering the TARDIS. And she's like, it's something borrowed, something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. You know that old wedding saying? That describes the TARDIS. And I love how Stephen Moffat wrote that, how somewhere it must have like gone off like a light bulb in his head. Like, oh, that would be so great to tie in the TARDIS as a wedding gift, right? Something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. That is the TARDIS. And when she remembered that, she's like, I know you're real, man, and you are late for my wedding. It's just, she's so fantastic in this, Karen Gillan. And all of a sudden the TARDIS shows up. You know the sound, I can't do it, but it shows up right in the middle of where they're eating dinner, and he pops out in his tux, and she runs up to greet him, and it's just such a wonderful moment. But I point all this out, that this is one of the greatest scenes in which we see, and this is just in the first season. Matt Smith goes on to do so many, and we're going to talk about that, so many more great things, but this is one of the true testaments to what a great actor Matt Smith is, and how he's delivering such a beautiful script, beautiful words written by Stephen Moffat. I mean, together they are a juggernaut, just of quality and of substance, of great sci-fi that's for the family, and it's done so well. So again, check this out, the Pandorica Opens, Big Bang, episodes 12 and 13 of season 5. What I'm calling episode 14 is really the Christmas special that followed it. And special is the right word. Doctor Who has always done this, by the way. They have their regular series, okay, 5, 6, 7, whatever. But they always had a Christmas special to celebrate Christmas. It has typically a Christmas theme to it, of course. Well, this one is the Christmas Carol. There's not enough I can say about how brilliant, well executed, written, acted this episode is of the Christmas Carol. We've all seen the Christmas Carol played out so many times. You know, that goes from Christmas past, present, and future, where you change the character Ebenezer Scrooge. This is the Charles Dickens story. My favorite version happens to be Scrooge, the 1970 version with Albert Finney. I've talked about it before. It's a musical. Check it out. I was actually in this musical in high school. I had one of the leading roles with a solo and everything. That's one of my favorite versions, Scrooge. But up there, right under Scrooge or alongside it, would be this Doctor Who episode in 2010 called The Christmas Carol. So take a character like Ebenezer Scrooge, okay? He's not called that in this, but that's who he is, okay? This old miser. Christmas Carol was one of the first stories to actually introduce a form of time travel. In that, Ebenezer Scrooge, using the mechanisms of these ghosts that visit him in one night on Christmas Eve, where they bring him to the past, they travel to the past, he's in the present with another one, and then this ghost, transcending space and time, or in time, you know, they travel to the future, and he shows them this possible future, okay, where he's dead, and everything has gone badly for him. Because Ebenezer, being this selfish old jerk of a miser, right, if he keeps following this path of being cruel and unkind and unloving and loved by anyone, he will end up dead and cold in the ground, still unloved by anyone. So It's about changing one man in the course of one night by showing him who he was, who he is now, and what he will be. Past, present, and future. Time travel. Now, introduce the Doctor into it, okay? The Doctor has the TARDIS. Well, he's talking to this old man, and he can't believe it, right? So what does he do? They're watching an old video, okay, him and the old man, of him and when he was a kid. His father used to abuse him. He was an abused child. That kind of sets a template, right? That can, if not course corrected, that can actually lead to becoming a cruel person yourself. It can, in a lot of instances. It doesn't always, of course, but so what does the Doctor do? He jumps in the TARDIS, and the very video they're watching from the past, okay, so imagine an old home movie you're watching, and you're with the Doctor. The Doctor jumps in his TARDIS. He jumps out during the recording, so all of a sudden, the man you were just talking to in the room, okay, is in the video you're watching now. So the point is, he begins linking the past and the present together and showing him. And here's what's great. When he travels back to when this old grump of a man was a boy, he shows that boy a better way. And he shows him love, and he shows him kindness. And what does that do? When you start changing that little boy's life in the past, it'll begin changing the man in the future. It's that causality. Okay, that's what time travel does, and that's what time does, right? The choice and experiences we have throughout time inform who we will be. So he begins changing the man, okay, during the course of his life, starting as a boy, as he gets older, and showing him the miracle of Christmas. And the boy finds love and falls in love with a girl. And the old man is watching this happen and experiencing new memories. He's being changed in real time as the Doctor is visiting him in his youth. You just got to watch it. And all my words right now can't convey how special a story, how special an adaptation of the Christmas Carol this is. This is high on the to-do list for Matt Smith and Stephen Moffat. Christmas Carol, the Christmas special from 2010. It's following season 5 before season 6. Do check it out. It'll bring you to tears. You'll have fun along the way. And it's truly thought-provoking. And it makes you think about your own life, your own past, and how the things that I've gone through have informed who I am now. And imagine tweaking a few things along the way. Would I be different now? Yes. Is that good or is that bad? But it's just so beautifully done. Do check it out. Christmas Carol. Thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing. Hit the like button. Share this with your friends. As always, I am Eric, and this is the Loud Boy Experience. Until next time, have a good night.